Yeah, so. Right, you all set? All right, I'll call the meeting to order. First order of business is the minutes. We have two sets of minutes from January 17th. First one is the 4 o'clock meeting of the Lincoln Board of Select.
4 p.m. I will make a motion to accept those as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And then, oh, sorry, we just run this. Which one? Joint. This is the joint one? Yes. So this is the 4 p.m. reading. There's that one.
Yep.
And then the next one is the 4:31. The only thing I have on that one is on line 45. It says the selectmen agreed to return, and I get it, because it's the joint meeting, but can we just clarify for
Yeah.
those that don't, that both boards of selectmen or both town selectmen, or however you want to do it? The joint,
How about the selectmen agreed to return?
the joint board of selectmen,
Joint
just-
Lincoln would stop.
Or the selectmen of both towns.
selectmen of
agree.
both towns, perfect, love it, of both towns. Got it. Just to clarify, because I don't want someone to read that and go, what do you mean you only meet 4 times a year? I mean, I was kind of psyched when I first saw it. So I'll make a motion to approve those as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Jane. Nicely done.
Like that. Next on the agenda is a discussion related to the short-term rental ordinance.
Yes, so, I don't necessarily think that this is a discussion that is going to be settled upon today, or any decisions are gonna be made today. But in light of, the proposed or the recently proposed zoning ordinance changes in regards to short-term rentals and kind of the results of what happened with those public hearings, there were a lot of questions that were brought up in regards to our current ordinance that we may want to revisit or look at or redefine some of the aspects of our current selectmen's ordinance. One of the issues in particular is we are now having land-only parcels register for in the short-term register as a short-term rental in the short-term rental program. Currently, our ordinance, the definition of short-term rental or vacation rental unit is defined as any individually or collectively owned single-family house or dwelling unit, or any unit or group of units in a condominium, cooperative, timeshare, owner-occupied resident home that is offered for a fee in less than 30 consecutive days per RSA 48-A:1. That doesn't say anything about land only parcels. So I don't know if we want to look at that, or if we just want to let sleeping dogs lie, or if that's something we want to revisit.
I think that it was in response to the proposed ordinance that the selectmen had originally proposed to go to town meeting, to be on the warrant. I think since that, and it was a rush for people to register the short-term rentals just in case, and I understand that. I don't think it's necessary now, because that is no longer an issue at all. It's a moot point, totally moot point. So we notify the individual that registered the vacant parcel of land and just let them know that you don't need to do what you were gonna do, and you've got, there's no mad rush to get it done.
Right, but that doesn't mean that there won't be future changes that would, if we were to say, we'll refund your money, here's your $100, and then something happens next year and they're no longer grandfathered, then that would be on us.
But it would still have to go to town meeting, and they would get.
Oh, yeah,
noticed.
absolutely, right. I just don't know if we're okay with
The person in question is aware and on top of things, so there's not gonna be.
if the selectmen are okay with allowing land-only parcels to
I
be
don't think that's
registered.
a definition. What are they offering
know.
for rent, and where are they offering it?
Exactly.
Okay, so they're not
So
reading that.
right.
And number two, it doesn't say on the list of definitions, land.
Right.
It says houses, condos,
Single family.
single family,
Multi-family dwellings.
it doesn't say raw land.
Exactly, so that's
they
what I'm
don't-
saying.
They don't have the type of unit that's available to be registered. And they're not offering it for rent as they are required to do on that, so they don't, it doesn't fit.
the way it's written.
But
Right.
what if I own a parcel of land, I'm gonna put 50 tents up there, glamping,
Then you have a campground.
well, again, does it fall under the short-term rental law? So I would say,
No, it falls under just like, Nordic or any of those.
Oh, the
Or camp,
Any of the campgrounds, yeah. Campground, there are campgrounds around there. On the short-term platform.
Yeah.
And that's what you'd fall under on the campground.
yeah, but I bring my own to this, I'm a landowner, I'm putting up the tents, I'm putting up the glamping,
camping, do that.
okay. So you don't think it needs to be registered under short-term rental?
I don't think a raw piece of land
Yeah.
is not one of the qualifying types of properties that.
Right. When you have your 10 yards on it.
I
it'll be-
wouldn't be in favor of changing it at this point.
Agreed,
If someone came forward with a proposal like that, and wanted us to look at it, I'm fine, but
right, agreed.
so, in the event, because we've had this happen, should I then, obviously I'll write a letter and we'll refund the money and go through the motions, which is saying at this time, we're not registering landowner
Right,
parcels.
right.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's not the only issue though, that I found within the short-term rental ordinance. Nowhere, does it say in the current ordinance that it's based on calendar year from January 1 to December 31. It says we do a lot of annual fees and we do a lot of, it needs to be done by this day, but nowhere in the ordinance
Can you
itself.
go ahead and add that for his next selectman meeting for a vote? We'll modify it.
Sure,
Okay.
we can do that.
Or we can do it now.
Well, do we also want to look at, the fees for the late fees or the, annual fee to register? And like I said,
That's
all
a
these
good-
are just
that's a
kind
good
of
Suggestion.
brainstorming things
Yeah.
that maybe we should talk
Because
about
Granicus did
at a
say
future meeting, but I wanted to get it on the radar because it's very much in our face right now.
Granicus did say that our registration fee should be the one average nightly fee for the average of the short-term rentals in town. Would they put it like $2.95 or something like
Something, yeah,
that? I forget
I
what it
think
was.
Granicus gave us the figure of 314.
Three,
something
four,
along those
okay,
lines, yeah.
okay, close, yeah.
And again, none of this could take effect until 25
Right,
because we're
right.
currently already into the
Correct.
24 year and whatnot, but like I said, I think there are some things that we could at least clarify within the ordinance that would make our job in-house easier to enforce, because we're getting people now, it's like, nowhere does it says it's on a calendar year,
Well,
no,
I
that's.
Definitely add the calendar year.
Okay.
I would be in favor of increasing the registration rate to 300 on Granicus's recommendation. But leave it at a 300, an even number. What are the late fees now?
The late fees right now are, it says, the first offense from a unit owner that was not sent a notice of this ordinance by the town is a written warning. First offense from a unit owner that was sent a notice of this ordinance by the town, 100. Second offense, after allowing 10 days for registration since first offense, 500. And additional offenses after allowing 10 days for registration since second offense, 1,000.
You know, I've been approached by a number of people. Where in other communities, they've increased the fee of registration to like $500. And I'd like to see this maybe discussed at town meeting, to see what, the general population feels. As far and make the funds that go from that into a dedicated fund for affordability and, like workforce type housing. This is something obviously that's, on a lot of people's minds in town. You folks here, just as I do. And, if we had a dedicated account, it's above and beyond the fee that we pay to Granicus for serving it. Then we've got cash in a dedicated revenue stream to continue to do it year after year after year. I mean, $500
We have to-
times what we have 400 and something registered now. There's a couple $100,000, is it?
Yeah, like a special revenue. fund.
Special revenue fund.
To, have a housing authority, we'd have to establish a Lincoln Housing Authority in order to do that.
No, I don't think we,
I don't know.
I looked into that once.
I think that, we would start with the funds and again, if land came available.
If we had funds for housing authority purposes, we
No,
probably
I
have
didn't say for economic purposes. I said for participating in affordability, labor force, housing, It might be money that
Which would be
we
helpful.
purchased a piece parcel of land, then resold it, but again, it'd give us options with revenue. We'd have, well, I mean, it's just a thought, because it's
Yeah.
been brought to
No,
my
I
attention
love
by
the
a number of
idea.
different
But
people.
I think we have to establish a housing authority in order to have monies for the purposes of a housing.
I don't know that answer. I do think that before any sort of revolving fund, is established, we would have to have a clear definition of what that money can
Correct.
and can't be
Right.
used for. Because the way special revenue funds work is the money that's brought in can only be used for that special
That's
revenue
special
purpose, right?
Well,
That's
we
special
have
purpose.
theoretically
So,
until January 1, because we can't change anything until then anyway. So we have time to do the homework.
Well, I'd like to hear a town meeting, what folks have to say.
Muddle at town meeting, but I'd love to have public hearings on it, absolutely here, no question.
And
It's great.
I don't know if we actually, we might even have to establish that special revenue fund at town. I'm not 100% sure. So
Definitely.
I'll look into the details on special revenue funds and what we
Yeah.
would have to or wouldn't have to do. And then I think as far as if we were going to lean towards the housing or using it for housing, I think we would have to obviously look into one, if we could, and
Right.
two, what we
What
would
we
have
have
to, right.
to do in order to do that. Awesome, good idea, Jack.
I like that idea.
But we have time.
We have time, like I
to do
said,
this.
but also part of the reason why I bring this up is at the budget committee level, when we were going through the planning department's budget and we were looking at the Granicus line item, they had asked, you know, are we breaking even? And we are breaking even, but we're not. It wasn't a goal,
Right.
it wasn't, the goal wasn't to generate revenue.
We had just.
And but the budget committee felt, not the whole of the budget committee as a whole, but there were members of the budget committee that felt that maybe we should be using it as a revenue generator and not.
And that was the original intent,
Sure.
however, that we needed to get it established first.
We had to
We
get,
had the ordinance, and we were having not a hard time, but it was too time consuming to administer it in-house, so then we went to Granicus. It was all still kind of a moving part.
Sure.
We always knew we were gonna go up with the registration fee. That's kind of a given.
okay, so we'll
Then
put
we
this
wanna-
on a future agenda and
Absolutely.
just keep it on our radar and work through some of these.
Put it on the back of your,
Is Granite continuing to send out, notices or letters to people that they see putting new rentals online? Make sure that they get them registered?
So right now, we just sent out, or last week or the week before, a reminder notice that 24 registration is now open. So we're waiting until that kind of dust settles from, we've had.
Right.
We didn't want to do them both at the same time and cause confusion. So we are now, and that letter that, the email that was sent out, we've had 30 or 50 or so in the last 2 weeks that have registered. So we were waiting for that dust to settle, and then we were gonna go and start sending the new owners out. I will, the new, I don't wanna call them reminder notices, but we've seen your property listed on Airbnb, please register.
sure,
I will say this, in the stirring up of all the short-term rental conversation, we have had property managers of some of the condominium, condominium units, or
Sure, sure.
homeowners associations or
Yeah.
whatnot, reach out to us. And we're starting to create more of an open dialogue on if they allow short-term rentals, that we ask that they are registered with the town. One condo association in particular, they sent us a list of the 63 rental units that they had that they were managing, and only 13 of them were registered with the
Fantastic.
town. So, I do think you're gonna see an influx this
Good.
year, but we're hoping to be able to work with the property management companies and kind of work together as,
Excellent.
if you're going to allow them and you're going to manage them, then can you please ensure that they're registered with the town as well?
Right.
So,
that's awesome,
we are opening that line of communication with them, so I think that's good.
great.
That is good, but it's disappointing. that
Very
Granite
disappointing.
missed the 50.
Well, the last time we sent out those letters, we had an issue with the letters, remember, because we couldn't, they were having trouble identifying what were exempt properties and what were not exempt properties, and then what we also found is everyone that had a 2022 registration number wasn't registering in the Granicus's software as an active registration, so a lot of people got notices that shouldn't have gotten notice.
They had a lot of bugs that
They had a lot of bugs that we are slowly but surely ironing out. We now have a better grasp on how to use the system, and we have a better idea of how to cross-reference when people registered, what their expiration dates are and whatnot. We've added Granicus to add a column, so where we can update registrations on our own.
Fantastic.
So we're getting there, but it's still us learning how to use the system to, I guess, its most effective, as an effective tool.
Great.
And has it taken a lot of the burden, if not all the burden off the staff? And because that was our intent originally, to outsource it, so we didn't have to worry.
Sure.
With staff being overloaded. with work.
I would say, yes, I would say not all. I would say not all, because we still get phone calls every time we send out a reminder notice, or every time we send out some, we still have people who, it's more helping people figure out how to use the portal than it is the portal not working as it should. I would say that in the last 2 months, we have seen the system work for us better than we have over the last year. And I think it's because we are now understanding how to use the system better. We now have a contact that seems to be consistent. For a while, they had a lot of staff turnover, and we were kind of just being, we had a different customer service rep every 3 months, and we would run into problems, and we tell them we already ran into this problem, and we have to reiterate the whole problem all over again. For the last few months, especially with this last mailing of reminder notices, everything has worked as it should. We've
Good.
gotten much less phone calls and much less emails regarding the system's not working, so. We're ironing out the kinks, similar to the whole ordinance in general.
Sure.
We are.
Yep.
We needed it to get the program started, and we're kind of just making it better as we go along,
Excellent.
so. We will put it on the agenda for a couple meetings in the future. Okay,
Yep, let's do that.
all right.
Have a block grant?
Yeah, we need to make an amendment to the highway.
It's not highway block grant, this is the highway safety
Safety
grant.
grant.
So this is
Oh,
the
gotcha.
grant that funds the police department's special details for DUI, speed, seatbelts, all those type of details that the state funds for us. We were previously awarded, I think, 14,000.
Yeah, something like
It's
that.
right in front of you. I'll check right
Oh,
there.
Okay, 14,293.
Is what we were originally awarded.
And they're amending that original award to 21,893.
Correct.
So we need a motion to accept the 21,893.
You got
So
it.
moved.
Yes, and also a motion to authorize me to sign on the new amended amount.
So moved.
Did you want to see that?
So,
Okay, you want to second it?
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Not a bad thing.
No, that's a good thing. We'll take more free money.
Yes.
All right, next on the agenda is petition warrant article. The board, the town has received. Yeah. Oh, that's the only copy, huh? No, I got.
Everyone's got one.
The town received a petition from more than 25 registered voters. There's 29 registered voters that have signed this petition. So it will come before this board for a recommendation. It'll then go to the budget committee for, it's a appropriation, and it'll go to the budget committee for an appropriation. And then will be placed on the town,
It goes on the ballot anyway, on the warrant.
Warrant.
Anyway,
and it will be voted on
at night,
during the evening session. It will be
secret
a
ballot.
secret ballot. It's a bond issue.
The first warrant article addressed.
And
Needs
it's
a
a
3/5.
3/5 majority to pass.
Correct.
And I will read petition warrant article. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4 million to purchase the locally known Campers World property, map 105 lot 33, consisting of 321.96 acres of land located off Route 3 on the east side of the Pemigewasset River in Lincoln, New Hampshire, currently owned by EDL Enterprises, and to further authorize the issuance of not more than $4 million of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. So we need to have a public hearing on this. Actually, no, we just need to make a recommendation with the budget committee have a hearing on it because it's a
So,
monetary issue.
so tonight you will make a recommendation to, or you will vote to either recommend or not recommend. The budget committee tomorrow night will vote to either recommend or not recommend. Regardless of the outcome of those votes, we still need to hold a bond hearing. The selectmen need to hold a bond hearing.
We do.
You do, because it's a bond or note over $100,000. So, in my town manager's report, it was more for me to be able to articulate the timelines.
Right.
We are required to hold a bond hearing for RSA 33A. Below is a timeline to ensure we stay compliant with state law. So the notice to the newspaper would have to leave this office by 2/9. It has to be in by the Friday before the Thursday publication. 2/15, it would be published in the newspaper. Statutorily, we have to publish it before 2/19. And then the public hearing would be held at our regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting on 2/26, which is the last day statutorily that we can hold a budget hearing.
Okay, that's a 3/5 ballot vote.
You got it.
And Monday, the 5th is the deadline, so this is in well before the deadline.
Tuesday, the 6th is
I'm
the
sorry,
deadline.
Tuesday the 6th, okay.
So
I
whether
will-
it's, even if it's
Yeah.
not recommended by both parties,
It's on the ballot.
it's on the ballot, we still have to go
Have
through the
to, because
motions
it's
of
more
a,
than 25 voters.
you get it.
I'll make a motion that the selectmen recommend this article. I think the town owning campus world and it not going to developers, to turn into, like it's Lincoln, what is the Lincoln? Can't think of the name of the condo down here. For the village. We won't,
Yeah.
okay,
A
a
condominium.
condominium complex north. And instead is owned by the town is a fantastic idea. The possibilities for workforce housing and riverfront park or anything, I mean, the possibilities are endless on the enjoyment that locals, the towns, folks will get out
For
of
the
it.
sake of discussion, I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Now we can have discussion on it.
Too late, already.
I know you. I assume that the intent of this is for the town to control it more than own it long term. As opposed to just keeping it,
I have no idea.
a vacant piece of land. And I mean, I don't know if if the purpose is to use it for, I don't want to say affordable, but for the local community who lives here and works here to have a place to live. And I don't think the town is in a position to be the developer,
I would agree with that.
but, it certainly could be used for, like we had a head here and talking and no one wanted it in the spots that we were talking about.
Here's a perfect spot.
This would be a perfect spot to do it. Up on the highway.
Or if we increase the short-term rental registrations and have some sort of housing authority, now we have land to do something on. No, I think it's a great idea.
I think there's a lot of information here that has to be generated, I think, to the community as far as what is the cost on the tax rate. What is the revenue that the current 300 acres brings into us? And, so that's tax money that you're losing. I approached, if you remember, I convened 2 meetings here in this room with the business community, and people from the state at one meeting, people from North Country Council at another, to discuss workforce housing. And I made an inquiry to the owners through a third party. And at that time, they were not interested because that land I thought might be available to the developers, not to the town, but to the developers who have an interest in the workforce housing. Remember, they're making money every time they have labor force that they don't have to pay for travel, et cetera, et cetera. By the same token, it also could provide housing for the next generation here, that there is nothing defined, so it could provide housing for them. So I think I would be in favor of at least bringing it before the taxpayers, seeing what the community, the total community feels like. But again, I'd like to hear more, get more information. I mean, I don't want to be sitting on a piece of land, or the town, not me personally, obviously, but I don't want to see the town be sitting on a piece of land for 10 years and, or even 2 years. Watch building costs, we've all seen what building costs have gone up.
Right.
It's nuts. I mean, when we talk about affordability, HUD has an actual formula that they use for affordability for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom plus. And what the median incomes are to, that should be able to afford that. People shouldn't be paying more than 30% of their adjusted gross income for their rent, their mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. So, whatever.
Those are the taxpayers anyway.
Pardon me?
It will go to the voters. I
Oh, yeah,
think.
absolutely.
Well, no matter what we say, it's gonna go there.
If I can add one.
Jim had a comment there.
But,
Oh, I'm
well,
sorry. Go
can we
ahead.
just speak
If
first?
I could just add one thing, what we are going to run into if the, and we touched upon this briefly last night at the budget committee, is the 10% rule. The 10% rule is that town meeting can't appropriate funds greater than 10% over the budget committee's recommendation, which this warrant article would do if the budget committee does not vote for it. And so in those instances, they happen very few and far between. Doing some brief research on it, and again, I haven't touched base with an attorney on it yet, but doing some brief research on NHMA in regards to it, it says that, the 10% calculation is computed on the total amount recommended by the budget committee, less the part of the appropriation item, which is considered a fixed cost, so it would be less our long-term debt, so we would deduct the long-term debt from the overall amount, which is like 707 this year, I believe. So minus $1 million, let's say. It says the statute is silent as to what happens if the total appropriations at a given meeting do exceed the recommended budget plus 10%. It says generally DRA will disallow on a last voted first out basis, which means that it's important to consider the order in which the warrant articles will be voted. So essentially, the last 15 of our warrant articles are usually capital reserves. So if we do have to follow this 10% rule and we do need to reduce the budget to get within that 10% time frame, none of the capital reserves will be fine, most likely.
Does this, as a bond, does it have to go first?
Yes,
And so if the bond is over 10%.
correct.
Because the budget is. what,
The
eight-
budget is coming in right now at, well, it's overall budget, so it's operating budget, reserve and trust, special warrant articles. So altogether, that number right now is 10.3. So we could only fund for this project
$1 million.
$1.3 million. You got it.
$1.3 million, so, I mean, so is it a
Which
waste?
could make us run into, we have to hold a special town meeting, we have to do this all over again.
It's all gonna depend on what the budget committee says tomorrow night.
You got it. And that's, the budget committee didn't vote on it because they knew that the selectmen hadn't voted
If
on
they
it.
don't recommend it tomorrow night, then we'll have to be very clear that at town meeting.
Yes,
prior.
that's why I'm saying I would, at this point, I think we would need to get an attorney involved to give us kind of the protocol on how we do things.
Does the 10% rule take into account bonded versus appropriated for the calendar year?
So it says the 10% rule can be overridden by a proper warrant article in the case of a bond request. RSA 3218A. I don't know what that says. I to be honest, when this first came up, I didn't even think of the 10% rule until it was discussed last
Can we
evening.
have clarification on that tomorrow prior to the budget hearing?
Yes. RSA 3218A. So this could create an issue for us budgetarily.
Maybe.
Maybe. I'd say 3318. So,
Now, get back to the original, I mean, somebody has put out a price of $4 million for 300 acres. Has there been any appraisal done? I mean, how do we know that it's a valid? Should it be worth $2 million? Again, I don't know. I'm just saying, I mean, somebody,
It's less than
you
the
know,
per acre
before you
cost.
should appropriate money, you should know the true value based on a professional opinion. Again, not that person. It's
No, you-
about 12 something an acre.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
correct, because, I mean, a flat buildable acre is worth more than a steep piece of ledge. There's some steep land up there.
Yeah.
There's some very buildable land up there. But there's also some steepness as you go back in further. Now, you know, back in the eighties, Bradgate put water and sewer over there with the intention of building I don't know how, I don't remember how many units. But there was a significant buildable area up there. You know, enough that it was feasible to put condos there back in the eighties. I assume with the way things, the market is now, that it's also feasible, but you're right, I don't know what that value is. With that being said, I would tend to agree that we should recommend this and put it before the voters. And if the voters vote yes, there's a lot we can do with it, there's a lot we could make money back for the town, you know. We're not looking at buying this and then just giving people home sites,
Right.
we'd be doing something with it, whether it's to a developer, like a head, or a private developer, or
For the
16
benefit of,
different
for the
developers.
benefit of the town.
But we can
I mean,
control what gets built up there,
Exactly.
without us being the developer. And if the townspeople wanna do that, that's fine, and if they vote no,
Right.
that's fine with me too. You know, Jim, you wanted to say something?
Does anybody know, is that land on Forest Ridge?
Yeah.
Yes,
Or is Clark's land in between them?
That is Clark's land.
EDL Enterprises
Oh, it is.
is,
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
Okay, so it does. apply-
Camper World,
Forest
that's
Ridge?
Clark's, yes, sir.
Yeah.
But that
Forest Ridge
that
keep
land
on
is-
going.
there is for sale for $9 million,
Oh, thank you.
600 acres.
Yeah, but part of that is their, not conservation, their green space, right? Part of
no,
it
there's a conservation easement,
on
Yeah.
that,
and there's a limit of what they can build per the developer agreement signed back in
right,
eighty.
right, okay,
So
thank
100
you.
units they could build total.
Total, and there's, I don't know how many built there now, so all they can build is the net
Right, the
difference.
next page.
Peter,
So are you, is this to contemplate to buy this land to build affordable housing?
No.
Or for eventually somebody to put affordable housing in there?
No, this is a petition warrant article that somebody from town got,
Yeah.
required signatures and brought in to put it in front of the voters for the town to purchase it.
Yeah.
They didn't put any specifics out there. We're just kind of spitballing the best use that could be used or might be used for it, that's all. You know, that's,
It's always gonna be difficult to build affordable housing.
Mm.
Because the cost of materials has gone up, and I understand what Jack said about the median income and all that. But you cannot even break even without maybe tax credits.
the amount of grants and things out there. too
Grants.
would help, yeah.
But New Hampshire doesn't have a lot on grants as compared to, say, Massachusetts. But they, for some reason, they don't get as much. But grants would help. Unless some HUD money came in where you get a zero interest loan for
Right, right.
30 years.
But that's cart before the horse at this point. We don't even know
Yeah.
if we're gonna get there yet, but yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
I
You're
would see
right.
this,
It's tough.
I would see this, and again, affordable housing has a very specific definition.
Right.
But I would see this more as the town could control the type of housing that goes up there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if two more hotels and a whole bunch of Airbnb units go up there, that could make some money for some people.
Yes,
If the town can control that, and again, like a head will come in, and they've got federal funds. They could do a project up there. There are other developers who have, who've done these, with federal money, grants or low interest loans. That may be interested in that. And then it doesn't have to fit, in my mind, doesn't have to fit that affordable housing definition. But it could be just a place where someone like a school teacher, a police officer, the finance director over there could buy a house and actually live in town instead of commuting,
Right.
30, 40, 50 minutes.
I agree with you. I think ownership is a much better
Yeah.
deal, especially if you could get some banks involved,
Right,
where you could get an interest rate down or a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
And put some in there. Now, this first-time home buyer, it's a funny situation going on right now. They have first-time home buyer generational loans. But that's a tough one because your parents can't own a home. You might be a first-time home buyer,
oh, gotcha.
but your parents can't have owned a home. Now, I don't know where people fall in that up there, or if this is something put aside for people coming into the country. I don't know how that's gonna work.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's tough.
They're gearing it as generational. So nobody in your second generation has ever owned a home, then you'll be eligible for these programs.
Hmm.
You know,
Interesting.
and these homes don't have to be big.
No.
If you were to do an affordable sale,
Right, right, right.
they wouldn't have to be large.
No, but like you said, Peter, I mean, with the cost, we both know what the cost is.
Yeah,
1,000 square foot home at $300 a square foot, is 300 grand.
yeah,
And,
and 300 is probably low.
right, exactly, with all the amenities that go in and excavation costs, like OJ said over there. My previous life, one of my previous lives, I was a housing director, had 2,000 units of public housing.
Yeah,
Both elderly family.
Yep.
Majority of them were family units, and it was very interesting. I mean, the cost back then, what the cost is today.
yeah.
I keep in touch with the director that took over after I left, so.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Are we ready to vote on our recommendation? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, so we're recommending that to budget committee.
Budget committee.
Okey dokey.
All right, next is the town manager's report.
Before we go to the town manager's, report, one of the issues we ran into last night at the budget committee as well is, we received a late proposal to amend the library's budget last week. And so when we, discussed it last night at the budget committee level, the BOS's recommendation and the trustees' recommendations differed in two areas. One is the wages, which we all know about, and the second one was the cleaning of the library, which is under contracted services on page 2. When Carol Riley originally proposed her budget, she was unaware that the contract price was going to go up for 2024. She has received the new contract, and it did go up $2,600 to $22,100. So the budget committee held off on voting on the library last night until the selectmen voted on their recommendation.
Why am I not seeing? Cleaning services.
It's on the top, it's on the top of page 2, and it's about halfway down the first.
Contracted services,
Yeah,
about halfway down the list.
Alexandria, oh, building.
Next
cleaning,
one,
I
yes.
see it. I was looking at cleaning that building. So it went up, oh, gotcha.
So it went up, yes,
19.5 to 22.
yes, so the, it's 22,100.
Is this the same one that we have? It's different from the town hall, correct?
Say that again?
Different cleaning company than this building,
Correct.
and a different cleaning company than,
It's the same cleaning company that Terry uses at the community.
oh,
building.
gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
And so last night, if you add the $2,600 to the bottom line of what the selectmen already recommended, the total library budget comes to $184,517.
184.
184,517. one.
And that does not include.
That does not include
The
the,
additional 2% wages.
you got it, it doesn't include the 2,400 for wages.
Then I'll make a motion that we amend our recommendation for the library budget to 184,517.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Wait, if I could ask you,
Mhm.
what do we pay for cleaning service for this building?
The PD has a line item, we have a line item,
Look at my budget.
I think we budget 8,000 for upstairs,
And
I
then
think the
they 12?
PD, I think they're 12, so I think
12,
around 20 in total.
Yeah. Yeah, 12, 14, something like that.
Mhm. So I would say comparable to what the library is, currently,
With
slightly less.
With footage, I think we have substantially more.
I don't know what the square footage of the library is, to be honest.
I think it's less than the building.
Yeah,
I would say
Up and
it's
down.
less,
Yeah.
yeah.
The executive, no.
For cleaning upstairs,
Yeah,
it is in the executive,
It is.
part of it's an executive, part of it's in PD, because we split it. So I think it's in contracted services under executive, and I think it's $8,000 that we budget. Oh, no, it's not in executive, you're right, it's in, town buildings. Sorry.
yeah, 8,000.
Yeah.
For this
And then,
building.
what's the PD? Spreadsheet.
Yeah, their contracted services. Computer. Cleaning, 12,000, yeah. So
And
it's
what is, can
20,
you look at the,
20 total.
community center?
Community building is
18.
18, okay, thank you.
No, 8 is budget number.
No,
18.
it's budget number 18,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Okay, never mind.
Cleaning supplies. Contracted cleaning services. 42.9,
It's because of the child care center.
yeah.
And the senior
And the
kitchen.
senior
kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't charge that much.
Absolutely.
All right, so
Thank you.
we're good with that?
I think you had a motion in a second,
Oh.
and I don't think you finished the vote.
Yeah, we did,
You did?
yeah.
I thought you opened it up for discussion and then
No,
Jack
yeah,
asked.
I said we good, and I said all in favor,
Aye.
and we said aye.
Okay,
So we're good.
Yeah, and then Jack.
I laughed for a second.
Okay.
Now we're keeping this on track, we're good. All right, do you want to continue with your
Yes, I also, something that is also not on, the town manager's report, because town manager's report's gonna be relatively simple, but okay. In your packets, you also have a letter from Dennis Ducharme in regards to the, Riverwalk. And, essentially, he sat down with the TRT meeting, he sat down with Ryan Fairbrother and Carol last week to talk about now that their phase 2 is, up and they're working on interior stuff. We need guidance from the board on their meeting space, event space, essentially their ballroom space. It's 322 seats. At the moment, they have, no intention of serving food out of the commercial kitchen that will be constructed at some point. So when they open their doors this spring or this summer, whenever the grand opening is, they would like to use that event space, but they would use it only on the basis of caterers coming in and having a vendor come in to supply food and beverages essentially. So this is where we run into the question of how do we charge their water and sewer tap fees? Because it essentially won't be a restaurant yet. When they go through the process of constructing the commercial kitchen and going through that, then we can assign water and sewer tap fees because we'll have.
Once the kitchen is complete, it should be, yeah, set like a commercial kitchen.
Right, but in the meantime, how do we assign water and sewer tap fees to that space?
So let me ask, if we, and not to suggest anything, but say we waive the per seat fee for the meeting room, because it's not a restaurant, it's a event space occasionally. At some point, it becomes a restaurant. Can we then charge those per seat fees? Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, I think when they come before, well, they don't have to come before the board, when they fill out the application to build a commercial kitchen,
Right,
there are points related to commercial kitchen and commercial
There's also
dishwasher.
per seats, right?
And then with the associated restaurant, I mean, commercial kitchen, the associated restaurant has points
Right,
per seat.
but if we waive those, not that I'm suggesting that, I'm just curious, if we waive those, if we, assess it like a commercial kitchen once it's built, and waive those per seat fees, and then in 5 years, he decides the event space isn't working, we're gonna make it a restaurant. Then could we assess the per seat fees at that point, if we waived them now?
I would think the time to do, my opinion is. the
To
time
do it now?
No, do it
Oh.
when
When
the
it's built,
application comes in for a commercial kitchen points,
address the whole thing then.
then that would encompass the whole space. And do that at the
So
time.
do you charge them that per seat rate when it's just a meeting room and does a wedding here and there and?
I will say this.
A nightly restaurant.
They seem agreeable, they wanna work with us, they're not trying to skip out on
No, no,
paying
oh,
their water,
sure.
but they're just like, can we pay a portion now and the remainder at the end, they're.
Yeah.
They've been very easy to work with, but I said, I don't necessarily wanna make that decision, I wanted to bring it to the board and discuss it. as a
They've
whole.
always been very,
Yeah, so,
everything they do,
um,
they've been. wonderful.
and I think we in-house are, open to kind of whatever,
What do you
we
think?
think is the best approach, so whatever the.
Would you charge them the whole thing like a restaurant? That's a hard one.
I think at this point, I would do some sort of percentage, that'd be my recommendation, thought. Is you charge a percentage of the points now, and then when they come with the full commercial kitchen that they're gonna build, they pay 100% of the points of that, for that, and then anything related to the space that commercial kitchen
Will
feeds,
service, right.
you credit whatever they pay now towards their points at that point.
And you charge them the full points like you would a restaurant.
Well, first of all,
That's what I'm
it might be
unclear
3 different people sitting here, and it'd be up to them to decide. I don't know if we
True.
decide now what someone's gonna pay, And
I
he's
gotcha,
saying,
I
gotcha. Might be 18 months, well,
We'll
it
address
also
it at
might,
that
might be a few years,
Right.
who knows?
I would agree with that.
What if we did 1/3 right now? And then
25%
whenever they come
yeah.
back, that amount of money points gets credited towards
Of just the commercial kitchen or the whole thing
the whole thing, commercial kitchen.
and the. per
And,
kit
and the seats, whatever that calculates out to, credit these
Of an
points,
estimate of,
yeah,
in case they
credit,
change the kitchen design or something.
credit these points to it that point.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so I think maybe the best approach is, I'll go back to Dennis and tell him what we talked about, and then we'll get things down on paper. How many exact seats, what the commercial kitchen's gonna look like, what the water and sewer fees will be. And then, based on what I'm hearing from you, 25%, a third, we could calculate a figure for it. I'll bring it to the board, and then we can agree
Sure.
upon that number before we say yes.
And again, I don't think it's necessary to know right today what his commercial kitchen's gonna be like.
No, okay, so just the seating portion, just the ballroom
Well,
portion.
if he said, he said he had 322 seats.
Right.
So charge him 1/3 of whatever that is.
Okay.
And then when he applies at the right time for the
Kitchen.
commercial kitchen, he
Okay.
pays the other 2/3 of these seats. Now, if he can reconfigure it and there's more seats or less seats, he still gets a credit for.
Right, I mean, Ryan will do, before the LUCC is issued, Ryan will do the walkthrough and we'll, just like we did
Right.
with the Hampton Inn, we went through and we checked every spigot, we checked every sink and every toilet and
So,
we got enough.
Devil's advocate here, if you just get something that's only an event space, not a restaurant. Do you do every single seat?
Has that ever existed in the town of Lincoln since we instituted water points?
I don't know since we instituted water points, because I'm thinking Beacon, but that was way
That was way
before,
before.
thinking Mountain Club, but that
Way
was way
before.
before, so I don't
The
know.
governor's lodge is way before.
Right,
We-
right,
It's not a category.
But
Maybe that's for.
maybe
future
there's
discussion.
something we
What is
should,
an event space that doesn't have
yeah.
a commercial kitchen? But see, that's.
Or that has a commercial kitchen, but I mean, the space itself, the 322 seats, they're not gonna be filled every night like
A
a
restaurant.
restaurant in town. They're gonna be once a month, or what, 2 weddings a month at a meeting or something.
Sure.
Or on a good time, it'll be, every single weekend and a weekday here and there.
yeah, he's
knows?
estimating that it's going to be used 25% of the year. Like 25% of the time.
And that's probably not an unreasonable estimate. Cause it is an event space.
How about
it's
this?
not a
Let's for
nightly-
now do the 1/3
Okay,
and allow it as a future credit,
yep,
to anything else that develops in that space. And then maybe we want to look at event space being a category separate from a restaurant.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll look into the space.
perfect.
Event space,
Water and sewer points.
And I apologize. I have-
Yes, I know you had to leave it.
okay. Handle that. All right, moving forward, town manager's report. We already talked about the petition warrant article, South Peak water storage tank. The route to the tank site for the geotechnical equipment has been completed. SW Pull should be on site. They're supposed to be on site at the end of January. I haven't been told that they were on site, so I imagine it's gonna be within the next few weeks. So, we are on their schedule, so we're just waiting for them to come on. Excellent. New police station construction, construction continues at the new PD. We did receive a complaint concerning the cold weather concrete standards, and I did reach out to our project managers.
Thank you.
And to this point, BPS has had 4 state inspections and 4 third-party inspections. We did hire a third party to do special inspections for us. They've had 4 state inspections and 4 third-party inspections, all involving rebar, frost, freeze protection, and 4 samples of the concrete. All of these inspectors have passed and applauded BPS's efforts to ensure quality results. In addition, BPS has added approved chemicals in the concrete that also aid in the concrete curing cold weather. All the concrete pours will be tested by our third party to ensure the required PSI is achieved. So far, it has been in all of their inspections, and hopefully this will help to alleviate the public's concern.
Who did we receive a complaint from?
Jim Welsh. Well, a concern, not a complaint.
Okay.
And then we are still working with New Hampshire Electric Co-op on the procurement of the transformer. We're supposed to have a Zoom meeting next week to try to, we're still running into a roadblock with procuring a transformer in a reasonable time frame. Right now, they're still saying 24 to 36 months out. BPS has asked our electrical contractor to run their numbers again as far as amperage to see if there's any way that instead of having, we could do 2 pole mounted transformers versus a larger standalone transformer. There's also potentials for us to purchase one on our own. I think that's a worst case scenario if we have to do that. Because then it would be hours to maintain and own in perpetuity, which runs into its own costs. So I should have more on that in the upcoming weeks, but that is still an issue at this moment.
Jim, you heard what Karina said. Does that satisfy your concerns?
I investigated a little bit more, I talked to somebody that actually knows. Said they did was inadequate. As long as that concrete was 60 to 65 degrees, and they put said it had been steel forms. It had to insulate order to form. Those wooden forms, the wood creates that insulation.
Thanks, Jim.
Good.
Thank you, Jim.
But, thank you. Thanks for your concern too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Make
yeah,
people
when they
take a
got down
second
to
look.
below zero on postage. And they were both, was.
Okay. Fire Department Trust Engineering, Du Bois and King was on site. They conducted their trust analysis on 1/25. We should receive that report, I imagine, in the upcoming weeks here. And then we can get on getting a contractor to do the work. So we still hope to have that work done this summer. Spring, summer, depending on when we get that report, so. And then lastly, I have our POTS telephone lines. Those are our copper, they're plain old telephone lines. It's the old school telephone lines. There are copper lines coming into the building. We right now have I think 29 lines, 24 lines, somewhere in that 20 to 30 amount POTS lines. The FCC is mandating that all the lines be replaced by an alternative form of communication. This happened last year. Mettel, who is our current telephone provider, has identified a solution and is now rolling out this new solution. It's taken them a while to do so. On the positive end, is that this new digital service should result in an annual cost savings because of the decommissioning of the lines. They've been increasing the service charge for those lines month to month to month over the last 24 months, and it's been incremental. It hasn't been extremely significant, but Mettel said that is about to change. The next increase is coming on March 1st. So we are going to make that transition from moving from the old telephone lines to the new digital service. I just wanted to make you all aware of it because there may be a day where our telephone lines are, a little wonky. So I will just make sure that once we know when that's scheduled to happen, that we let everyone else know.
Now, is there an upfront cost for us to do that, or is that in the monthly fee going forward?
It's in the monthly fee going forward.
Okay, so there's nothing that needs to be.
Purchase, no cost to us. It's actually cost savings to us on a month-to-month basis.
Okay.
Will ultimately save
Yeah,
us
right now they're estimating about $1,000 a month
savings.
savings,
Right.
so,
Really?
so we'll take it.
Okay.
All right. And that's all I have for this evening.
All right, have we,
Oh, it's not all I have. I'm sorry. Going back to the library as well. Last night at the budget committee meeting, we discussed the special warrant articles and we discussed the library front steps.
Yeah.
And after a lively discussion with the budget committee voted to reduce that $62,000 number down to $30,000. There was concern that the estimate we received, because it was only one, that it was high, and that if we potentially could receive additional bids, that number could be reduced drastically. So rather than scrap the whole project and take all that money out, the budget committee decided to reduce it, and hopefully between now and town meeting time, Carol Riley will be able to procure additional quotes or additional contractors to come out and look at it. And if need be, that number can be amended at town meeting. Is that a fair assessment, Carol? So that's where we are.
have you heard anything back from the two different attorneys for the towns on that dispatch agreement? No, nothing yet?
Nothing yet.
All right, then the other thing I had is we have a meeting with New Hampshire Electric Co-op
Mhm.
on Friday. And this is all just mundane stuff, but they had some concerns about underground lines and tree trimming and parking and stuff. And I just got this when we were at our previous meeting,
Okay,
so I really haven't read the whole thing, it's fairly long.
okay.
I'm gonna forward this to you and Nate, and I don't know if we need to power out.
What time is that meeting on Friday? Cause I know we were throwing around a couple different.
9 AM.
Okay.
You have anything else, Julian?
Yeah, I had, a couple calls, as the community knows, we changed the fireworks schedule.
Yeah.
We didn't change it, but,
Right.
provided it up till Friday evening, correct? The fifth.
Yes.
And that was agreed upon by both, Woodstock and Town of Lincoln, because it was the only provider that we could get that would do it. Nobody would do it on the fourth. I had two calls from two different people in regards to, and I never heard such a thing, but do they have a noiseless fireworks? One call concerned a veteran who has PTSD, it was a family member, and indicated that because of the booms, it can trigger issues. Again, I said I would bring it to the board, let the town manager bring it to the provider. The other person was kennels dogs, and the dogs are impacted by the noise and what have you. And I said to the second individual, I said, I've never heard. And she indicated that, yes, there is such a thing as a low noise or noiseless firework. Again, never seen it, never heard of it. I'm just bringing what was brought to me to the.
I've never heard of it as well. I don't believe it was given to us as an option, from our current vendor.
Jim, have you ever heard of a noiseless fireworks?
If there is such a thing, it's probably gonna be more expensive.
Oh, I bet you about a
Cynthia,
dollar it
what
is, and
The only thing I can think of, because I have seen noiseless fireworks, but they're laser shows.
that's what I'm saying, a light show, I've seen a light.
Light
show,
Light
right, yeah,
shows, they're
right,
not
yeah.
fireworks. The whole thing with fireworks is the boom and
Right.
the
And
celebration.
the echo.
And, you know, they were. I keep my dog inside, if there were, like when Loon sets off fireworks, I just keep the dog.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm just
Yeah,
echoing
know.
what people ask me.
I think the town fireworks are confined for about 25 minutes as opposed to the non-town fireworks, which go on.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
That to me is a bigger issue.
Well, and I think
not
that's,
solution.
no, that's the joke, is that we will have a fireworks show on the fourth and the fifth this year, so.
Yeah.
and the third.
So,
That was all I had to.
all right, then,
Oh, the other thing
Oh,
too,
yeah, go ahead.
I saw that we hired 2 new police officers.
Yes.
They are a very nice guy.
Yes,
Congratulations to both of them. Best of luck to them.
yes, they will both attend, the academy, starting, this, next month, starting in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so,
So that's 2 out of the 3 vacancies we have downstairs filled, and we have a third candidate to fill the last vacancy as well.
Nice.
So hopefully the PD by the end of this month, or I'm saying February, will be fully staffed.
and at some point early in their career, invite them up to come up and say hi, you know, especially if we're on duty on a Monday night. Not that they have to,
Sure.
you know, get up early if they're gonna not start work until midnight or something. I don't wanna screw up their schedule, but it is nice to meet the,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of them's a former employee.
EMS.
Yep, he was a former dispatcher.
oh, okay,
Fullerton, is his last name. And then the second one is, Erica.
Erica.
Yeah, who's a local girl and grew up in the
Her dad's a
community, and her
state
dad's a state trooper, and works, so,
Yeah.
we're excited to be on board. I lied and said I was done, I'm sorry, I know I always throw things in. Do we want to have some sort of groundbreaking ceremony for the new PD? BPS asked us if we wanted to do some sort of photo op, publicity, do we wanna wait until it's nicer out, do we wanna do it now? We knew that they got in there because time was of the essence, and, you know, but they asked if we wanted to do something.
I want a ribbon cutting.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it's kind of like groundbreaking, seeing as
See, it's all
the
done.
concrete's in the ground.
Concrete's in the ground, let's,
do a ribbon cut.
yeah, when it's
Perfect.
all done, we can invite the public there to actually see the building and make it an event worth going to.
That works for me.
Um,
I think that's great.
And I know when they did the new jail 20 years ago, whatever, they did the new jail. They invited the public to go in before
Yeah,
the prisoners went in to see it. I don't know if we can do something like
I
that.
think we can do
And
something
they
like
had
that,
some
as long as they're
areas,
not occupied yet, right?
they had some areas that were off limits, even though there was no one in there that you couldn't see because
Yeah.
whatever.
Right, there's certain, there's
Secure
certain,
areas.
right, there's
But I
certain,
think it'd be cool to have the public.
like an open house.
At least in that main area and the,
Yeah, the EOC center.
center.
and Yeah,
Some of them may see the future homes.
yeah,
Who knows?
all right.
Okay. that's all I have.
Then, I'll open up for public participation. Go ahead, Jim.
I just want more information from the public. The person that I talked to about the concrete over there, he said, all these inspectors have license. No license. So they're not gonna do anything that's gonna jeopardize your license. The company that was delivering the concrete, he said they obviously used cement, which would create more heat, which actually would make the concrete stronger. And he said, they're gonna make sure that that concrete is right when it gets on the job, because if it isn't, these inspectors are gonna send it back. And that's it, profit if that concrete truck is sent back. So there's no way, you know, everybody looking down the line, that concrete's not okay.
Thank you, Jim.
That's good
He
to
said
know.
that everybody kind of covers everybody. Concrete company doesn't want concrete back. Inspectors don't want to lose their license.
Right.
Probably work out and pay quite a bit to get.
Well, and like I said, the reason why I brought it up, Jim, tonight is I wanted you to realize that I took your concern to, and brought it up the chain, because that's not my expertise, obviously. And,
One I talked to was. He's an architect for concrete.
good, well, I'm glad,
Good.
I'm glad you brought it up, and I'm,
Yeah.
like I said,
Zach brought his. Good. Anyone else?
Can I
Yeah, sure.
ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Thank you, I'm Sarah. May I ask if the minutes from last meeting were approved? Sorry to miss that.
Yes, they were.
And then- Yeah, and then those are published.
they'll be on the town's website tomorrow.
Super.
Yeah.
Super, and sorry to miss the discussion today, but I did have a question. If I have a closing March 15th, can those owners under contract register with the town?
So the selectmen at the last meeting withdrew that warrant article, so that's not
So
even,
it's all done.
it's all done.
Okay, there's so much confusion about it.
Yes, so they withdrew that amendment to the zoning at the last meeting, so that won't even be addressed, it's not an issue.
Oh, okay, great. I will happily inform parties asking me. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Tell
Good.
tell the fee went up from people passing on March 15th to 1,000.
Yeah.
That might work. Double it.
Okay, Paul?
OJ, I have a couple comments. First of all, as a taxpayer, I don't think the town should be making money off of the short-term rental registration. I think you should be charging whatever the costs are to implement the program, and nothing more. I don't think it's fair to any taxpayer who owns a house and decides to make it a short-term rental, that they pay more than what it costs to implement the program. The other comment I'd like to make is that and taking this 320, the Board of Selectmen took a vote tonight to support this 321 acres sale for $4 million, because you wanted to put it towards have the taxpayers vote on it. But yet, in a short-term rental, you had a public hearing and listened to people first, and then you decided after that to take the short-term rental amendment off. I think it would have been best for the town to have a public hearing about this 321 acres. Listen to what the people say, and then the Board of Selectmen make a determination. I mean, because for me, I look at the 321 acres, not that I'm opposed to it, but I gotta tell you, I've got questions about what it's gonna be used for, who's gonna implement it, excuse me. I mean, it's the 321 acres. If you take that off the tax roll for some reason, because the town's gonna own it, we've got a lot of future expansion between sewer, water, all sorts of stuff, roads, infrastructure. So that the taxes that you're gonna generate from a sale of 321 acres to a private person that might develop it, would be substantial and would help the town develop a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of questions to be answered before it just goes to me to yeah, we want to do it. I mean, I think that a public hearing would have been prudent to have first for the Board of Selectmen to find out what it is, the people, whether they're concerns, whether they're support. I know you'll do that at the town meeting, but it just seems like this thing is being rushed, and I wonder why.
No, we won't be doing that at the town meeting until we have the schedule required public hearing that you're talking about. That's a mandatory step in the process. It's not even like we can bypass it if we wanted to. We want to do it and we have to do it.
No, I understand that you have to have a public hearing, but for the Board of Selectmen to show their support before, all three of you, before a public hearing, I question. I mean, the Budget Committee last night did not take a vote on it because they wanted to see what the Board of Selectmen, what they were gonna do. There was definitely mixed emotion there. There wasn't a whole lot of enthusiasm. There was more questions than there was answers. And that's why they chose to wait.
Unfortunately, Paul, I don't disagree with you, but unfortunately, because we are down to the wire in regards to timelines and what we are statutorily required to do, the last day for the select board to post the warrant and the budget at all polling places and the town clerks and all that good stuff is Monday, February 26th, which is the day that they're actually holding the public hearing for the bond hearing. So that timeline kind of conflicts with each other because it has to be posted on the same day that we have to hold it.
So there's no way to hold a public hearing prior to the 26th?
No, because the public hearing, the newspaper notice has to be in the newspaper.
2 weeks.
Yeah, at least 7 days before the meeting, because we have, our local newspaper only comes out once a week. We have to have the newspaper notice to the newspaper the Friday before at noon. So we would have to have, the newspaper notice. I mean, I guess technically, if we wanted to expedite things, I guess we could, in the next day, put together the notice and submit it for Friday. But then that means we would publish next week. I'm gonna look at the calendar.
Submit
It has to be posted. You said 7 days prior to the,
It has to be in the newspaper 7 days prior to the hearing, at least 7 days prior to the hearing. No less than 7 days. So if it goes in the newspaper on the 8th.
no less than 7 days, but it could be more than 7 days prior to
more
the
than
hearing.
7 days, right. But
So I mean, it could be held. Yeah, it would have to be the week after, the week of the 5th, right?
it would, well, if we put it in, like I said, if we get it to the newspaper by Friday, it would be published next Thursday, which is the 8th.
The 8th.
We couldn't hold a meeting until at least the 15th. So we would have to hold it either the following, the week of the 19th, the week before,
The vacation week,
February vacation, right?
right, which we don't have a scheduled meeting for. The next scheduled meeting is, for the board, is the 26th.
Actually, February vacation this week for New Hampshire is the week that goes into March.
So the Board of Selectmen don't have a meeting on the 19th?
We do not, because that's President's Day.
It's a holiday.
That's
Yeah, so
I mean,
It's mass vacation, yeah,
we could schedule a special
we could,
BOS meeting just to have the public hearing.
just to have the bond hearing.
before the 26th.
I mean, I think I just think that there's a lot of unanswered questions. I think the more answers we get, the more either support or not support you're gonna have, however it's gonna go. But I think the vet and to get out to the taxpayers, I think it's important. I mean, like I said, I have questions just about taking it off the tax roll. OJ, and I know you must have those same questions because you before, I brought things about how about buying property and you told me that the town's not in the business of buying property because we don't want to take it off the tax rolls, you know? So I kind of understand some of that thought process too, you know, when I think about probably an $8 or $13 million sewer treatment plant, who knows where we're going with water in the future? Who knows where we're going with infrastructure? The infrastructure to go up there, the 321 acres would be, I mean, huge. And we had such a hard time with this small light industrial park, small business park. I mean, you know, so you're going to put 321 acres makes that a real big decision then. So it's tough without having some real good guidelines and planning as to what it would be used for. You know, I mean, it just. I think the more public input you can do, I think the better off you are. And that's my 2 questions. Thank you.
So to Paul's point, do we want to schedule the budget hearing not on the 26th and try to do it earlier?
I don't see why not.
I'd be fine with that. I mean,
And it'll go now to the budget committee, which is meeting when?
The budget meeting meets tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
They'll weigh in on that.
They'll weigh in. I've also heard through the grapevine that there's another potential warrant article coming, and if that is the case, the budget committee will be required to hold a second budget hearing. So that would push out,
is tomorrow the last budget?
tomorrow's the budget hearing. Yes,
Tomorrow's the budget hearing. It's
correct.
not just a meeting, it's the hearing.
It's the hearing.
It's
We
public
voted
hearing.
on everything last night. They voted last night. The
Okay.
hearing is tomorrow night.
So,
But we held off on those 2 things because we wanted to get.
right, okay, so that's already been noticed in the paper?
Yes.
I guess I missed that.
But my understanding is it's irrelevant. I mean, you're gonna have the public hearing, but it still has to go to town meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean.
Right.
There's not gonna be anything that says, oh, we're not gonna do that before town meeting.
Absolutely, Cindy. I mean, regardless of whether both parties, whether the select board and the budget committee, whether they vote yay or nay,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It will go on the warrant.
Right.
But what it does determine is the 10% rule, if the budget committee decides to not vote on it.
Right.
Right.
We spoke of that. I don't know if you were on the meeting earlier, but we discussed
Yeah.
that.
I was.
So essentially, just to clarify that, I'm sure we'll clarify it again at the budget hearing, that it goes based on whatever the warrant articles were voted, how the order of how the warrant articles were voted.
I mean, and that's the other comment I'd like to make is that's a heck of a gamble for the town if it does go and the $4 million is approved and we lose CIP for some of the projects and some of the capital things that are supposed to happen, that could set the town back a little bit too, you know. So you gotta think of both sides of this when it's happening.
I agree with you in everything you've said. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot of unanswered questions. The 10% rule is a problem, but ultimately, this, just like my thoughts on the short-term rental thing, is something the community should weigh in on.
I agree, and they are gonna weigh in on it. It's a matter of
They have to weigh
what
in on
support.
it, and we'll react to what the community wants. Like I said previously, if they want to buy it, I think it puts the town in a good position to direct what it gets used for. And as
But you know as well as I do that
as far as taking it off the tax rolls, that property right now is in current use, so.
Yep.
It's barely on the tax rolls. I mean, I don't know what the taxes are, but
It's, I think it's assessed right now at 220,000 or something
yeah,
like that.
and it,
Right.
anyway, so they pay minimal taxes. Any development that gets done there will increase the property tax collected by the town. That to me, though, is not an issue, a reason to do it or not do it, that's irrelevant. I think what it allows the town to do is direct how it gets used. Like, we could set up a head housing in one section, we could set up some affordable single-family lots in another. It just allows us to direct who does it, what they do, and
Well-
all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard comments about, there's a lot of people who are concerned about using their taxes to purchase a piece of property as, being subsidized housing from,
We're not talking about.
I mean, it's true, but look,
Well,
anything the town does that owns up there, it does get a tax break, so if it was up to another developer, it would.
And you're gonna speak about it tomorrow night, and you're gonna speak about it at the public hearing, and you're gonna speak about it at the town meeting.
You bet.
So do it would be more effective when there's more people listening to you at those three events than right here, so.
OJ, I don't know if they listen to me anyway, but what they do listen to is they listen to the votes of the board. So the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee, they listen to those votes, and that tends to sway some people. So I think taking early votes is probably not the appropriate thing. But like you said, I'll talk later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim had a thought.
Jim?
Meeting that we had the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 3/4 of the people in this room, taxpayers. They weren't able to go to town meeting and vote. That's what you're gonna get this time. That it's gonna be taxpayers worried about the taxes. They're not gonna be able to go to town meeting. It ought to be up to the town, not these taxpayers from Massachusetts and everything else. I mean, probably 3/4 of the people in this room that will the short-term rental didn't even live in this town.
Affordable housing is an issue for town residents.
Yes.
At some point, the residents have to be able to weigh in.
It's a way of, I mean,
Yeah.
they can say all of them, they can't.
All right. Anyone else? If there's no more public participation,
Do we want to set a new date for the public bond hearing?
let's do that. Let's do,
If we can get a notice into the newspaper by Friday at noon, right, is the deadline?
right.
Friday at noon is the deadline. That would be for the February 8th.
It actually comes out on
Comes out on Thursday. Yeah.
Wednesday.
Oh, it's Wednesday.
So it has to be
Yeah.
in by noon Friday.
For publication on Wednesday, the 7th. So we could not hold our meeting until at least the 14th.
There's a planning board meeting that night that's pretty jam-packed.
Okay, so we could either do the 15th or 16th, Thursday or Friday, or we could do Tuesday, the 20th, which is the day after President's Day. Or anytime that week, actually, if we wanted to.
I'd be good, the 15th and 16th, we might be a trial those days. But
We might be at trial those
I
days.
don't know if we could get back to you what time the judge is gonna let us out. We might wanna go with the 20th just to be safe.
February 20th, Tuesday, February 20th.
And we'll do that at 5:30.
You look up that RSA. Be specific, let's talk about it.
I will look up the 10% rule RSA, yeah.
Okay. Do we have anything in non-public to talk about?
I don't. I don't.
Oh, let's update Jack because he wasn't there. All right, then I'm gonna make a motion that we go into non-public just Just legal, one legal issue. All those in favor? Aye. Yeah. Now,